You're clean, aren't you? Except for your tower. You're a tower junkie, Roland.
Hello and welcome to Tower Junkies, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Tower Junkies is a podcast devoted to Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. On this podcast, we discuss the themes, characters, and mythology of the series in Palaver episodes, and review the books and comic series in Kef episodes. We also discuss King novels related to the Dark Tower, non-Tower King novels, TV and film adaptations of King's work, and the latest news about potential Dark Tower-related adaptations. You can find more of our work at TowerJunkiesPod.com and follow us on every level of social media at TowerJunkiesPod. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is my co-host, Tiny.
Good evening, friends.
Hello. And so today we actually have a very special podcast that a few episodes ago I referenced it as being a Christmas present to our listeners, and here it is, January 3rd. Sorry, but we are actually recording a full commentary track for the Dark Tower movie that came out August 4th of last year. Tiny, we're well documented to have opinions about this movie, and we're excited to share those opinions in a film commentary medium. Are you excited for this?
Absolutely. This is my first commentary, too. I've never done it before.
It is, yes. In like the 4.5 years we've been podcasting together.
All right.
Yeah.
Not that we specialize in that. But
right. No, not at all. This is going to be a disaster. But yeah, and speaking of commentary tracks, actually, if you want to support Tower Junkies and all of the podcasts we do at Obsessive Viewer, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer, and everyone who pledges on Patreon gets access to a special RSS feed that is going to have exclusive commentary tracks for movies that I'll be recording at random intervals. The one commentary track that is up there now is the commentary for Jingle All the Way, which, so all you have to do is just pledge a minimum of $1. You'll get access to that RSS feed, and you'll be able to listen to me ramble about Jingle All the Way and Jake Lloyd's child acting. Yippee! Jesus. So the way that we're going to do this, so if you're planning on watching along with us, we're going to try not to spoil the book series going forward. So we're just going to talk about the film as it plays in front of us. So we will prompt you to get it synced. We will prompt you when we are to hit play. When we hit play, that's a weird way to phrase it. So right now I have the Blu-ray in, and I have it stopped at 0 seconds. So if you have a digital copy or are watching it on Blu-ray or DVD, take it to the 0 second mark, and then we'll press play here in a moment. Tiny, do you have anything more to say?
No, nothing else.
All right, well, here we go. I guess we're going to begin our commentary on The Dark Tower. And I am hitting play right now. Okay, and we have begun. And we have the Sony logo, which every time it played in a trailer before any movie last year, I got so excited because I thought it was going to be the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a shame. Like that, I mean, we were very much anticipating this movie, and it so didn't deliver.
Right.
And,
Sony logo is forever tainted now.
It kind of is for me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And then here we have the Ted Corporation, the last moment of the movie where I was excited about what I was going to see.
Yeah.
And like, I still love that so much because that's a nice reference to the books.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it also just...
It's all downhill from here.
Exactly. And it definitely leads to my fun fan theory that this is all just a propaganda film from the Tech Corporation.
Right.
So now we have this title card that says a tower stands, blah, blah, blah. It is said the mind of a child can bring it down. Tiny, at what part of the production, of this very troubled production, do you think that they thought, oh shit, we should add this so it's not as confusing as it should be, or as it
that
is.
totally feels like something they added in, like as part of the reshoots and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And it's so bland, and
it's not part of the books.
it's not part of the books. It is unbelievably cliche. And then also, okay, you have the twins from The Shining that they're actually like, this is one of the things that sticks in my craw about the Easter eggs in this movie, that like, okay, you have 1919, that's cool. But having the twins from The Shining, girls dressed like the twins from The Shining, saying, "Come play with us," it's like that alone is a little too on the nose. Like every Easter egg is too on the nose.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like seriously.
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
It's not an Easter egg.
No.
It's like a cameo.
Yeah.
But like
exactly.
It's a crappio. Because it's crappy.
Right. And see, this shot of the Devar toy from like a distance on that top of the hill area, hillock or whatever, like that was very much like prominent in the production or promotional materials and stuff. What do you think of the design of the Devar toy and the evil James Bond lair?
It's actually sort of cool. It's also just super cliche.
Yeah.
It's literally like a pyramid type thing. And it is very James Bondy cliche.
Yeah.
Stupid. I mean,
with hints of like the others camp in Lost.
Right.
Which I can kind of appreciate. And here we have our first shot of the tower, which if you would have told me that the first glimpse of the Dark Tower in a movie adaptation is of these kids using their minds to literally shoot a laser beam fireball thing at the tower, I would have been very disconcerted.
Yes.
By it.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah. If you've read the books, you understand how important that is. You know, and they just
not necessarily even how important that is, how important it represents such a difference between the books and the movie, because this is a movie that is so on the surface and on the nose with everything that they have to take literally the destruction of the tower or the harm toward the tower and make it the most literal thing possible by creating a beam to literally attack the tower,
right,
rather than how it's depicted in the movie or in the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about in our review episode that it's kind of cool that they featured beam quakes in the movie. But it's so sparsely or sparingly referenced that it's like, I don't know, it's just not that interesting, or I guess it gets lost in the shuffle of all the crap from this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think of Jake's whole home life? Like they obviously changed up the story with his dad, which I don't mind that much. In the books, his dad is a TV exec that's all like coked out and stuff, and here his dad is kind of a hero that he's missing.
Well, my reaction to it is it's a lot like the rest of the creative decisions they made. It's like I don't necessarily have a problem with the decisions they took. I have a problem with the execution of it.
Yeah,
because like I can understand why they would, give him a stepdad or whatever, and how his real father might kind of haunt him a little bit. I can understand how that could be a useful dramatic tool throughout the storytelling process. I can understand that, and that makes some sense, but they just did not execute it well. And the depiction of his home life here is just, it's a little too, like you said, on the nose.
Yeah.
Like it's much more subtextual in the books. And it's a little more gratifying in the books. I think a little more real.
I agree, and I feel like they changed it up because they wanted to give him and Roland a connection. Like they both lost their father. Right. Which seems like such a just lazy thing to do in execution. Now, this scene with the fight with the kid who played Henry Bowers and it, I actually really like that scene because I like that depiction of Jake as this kid that's not like, he's not a troubled kid. Like, I mean, he's a troubled kid, but he's not a kid that's going to just take shit from a bully. Right. I appreciate that. But yeah, and here it is. Okay, we're 5 minutes in? Yes, we are 6 minutes into this movie and no Roland, no Midworld. except for the very small glimpse at the beginning. It's just it's troublesome.
That was a mistake because Midworld is the setting for the books. It's the setting for the story. Mm-hmm. That's where it takes place, and like just to have so much New York in the opening it's just a disservice to the series as a whole. Yeah, and it's not good world building.
It really isn't. And okay, so the whole darkness and fire thing, I get what they were going for. But when it pays off later, when he has the vision of his father at the Todash monster, or at the Thinny, like it just feels like so awkward. Like when we'll get to that soon, but when the father like says like darkness and fire, it just seems like, why the fuck are you saying that?
I know, it's so dumb.
It's like it's really dumb.
Yeah, I get what they were trying to do as well with the whole, it's.
Oh, look, the Overlook Hotel.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
I get what they were trying to do, but again, it's just kind of a lazy thing.
Yeah.
Like Midworld and all of its the St. Bernard. Yeah, that's super secretive. Mm-hmm. What they were trying to do, it was a lazy way to go, and it's like Midworld is complicated.
Yeah.
you can't just. I understand that a lot of modern audiences are stupid and stuff.
Right.
Like, the simpler the better, but you can't just simplify your way into a cogent film. You have to be loyal to the universe that Stephen King created. You can't just try to cram it all into a box.
Absolutely.
Which is a lot of what they did with this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's okay. This actor, the kid that plays his friend, what do you think of him?
He is disturbingly aloof.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't even remember him that well. By the way, this is only I have not seen this again since the theater.
This is your second?
So this is technically my second viewing of it right here. So I'm trying to remember some of this, but this kid is just kind of, his reaction to all of the craziness around him is just weird.
Yeah.
I guess.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Catherine Winnick is really good, though.
She's, yeah. She's good. She just doesn't have a lot to work with.
She really doesn't. Like probably my favorite scene in the movie involves her, which I'll talk about later. But she has this demeanor to her that she seems like she's very much like she's playing the kind of mother at her wit's end character really well. Mm-hmm. Like in relation to this movie. And then you have to counter that with the stepfather being like just not knowing what the hell he's doing in the movie.
Right.
Like it seems like it kind of feels like he had no direction. Like it's like Nikolai Arcel just gave him no direction or no notes on his performance. He's just like, I'm just going to talk like this and just be an asshole toward this kid.
He's like, just read the words and you're a dick.
Yeah.
That's your entire motivation.
Yeah, and that's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
Now, it was originally rumored, I think in one of the original drafts of the movie. Also, by the way, they spelled Elmer Chambers wrong there.
Yes, they did.
But just saying.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the first viewing of this movie. But anyway, they made in an original draft. It was going to be that he was going to be a 9/11 first responder.
Okay.
Which I think would have been. I don't know. I honestly have no opinion on whether or not it would have worked or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jake would have to be like 16 or 17 years old for that.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
At the very least.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's true. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have literally the introduction of Roland Deschain. Now, this is officially 10 minutes into the movie, so I honestly thought that it was going to be that it was like 15 or 20 minutes into the movie, but it's actually 10 to 12, which, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But this scene, like, just everything about this right here is problematic to me because there's not enough set design. Like, they do not know how to work with their budget.
Totally.
Yeah. And then McConaughey's just...
I think what they were going for is they wanted to have a scary, menacing introduction for the Man in Black.
True.
And I think they kind of achieved that. Mm-hmm. But it's their version of the Man in Black. It's not a good version of the Man in Black.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get some lines of dialogue between Roland and Stephen Deshane, which I still love Dennis Haysbert's
perfect
casting of it. Like, that's great. And then also we've got the Gunslinger's Creed, which hearing Idris Elba and Dennis Haysbert say it is awesome, just because I love that, the Gunslinger Creed. But having the Man in Black taunt them, like, just, I don't know. And then we get the fucking, this is so...
It just looks it looks like they filmed this in the woods behind an elementary school with the fog machine.
Oh, yeah.
It's really bad. It looks bad.
It looks bad, and then, like, what are we supposed to expect? Like, what are we supposed to learn about from this scene? Like, about the world. Like, there's nothing too interesting about, like, Dennis Haysbert's costume or anything. Like, there's nothing.
There is zero minutia.
Yeah, exactly.
Or detail.
Exactly.
I think they're going for this is kind of like at the end of a battle. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's what they're going for.
Yeah.
But the only detail is the fog, which I think is supposed to be smoke. Mm-hmm. But it's just so. That's it. That's all they did. That's all the effort they put into this scene is the frickin' smoke. Mm-hmm. And
that's really true.
Subpar dialogue.
Yeah, like to even say it's subpar is to give it favors, is to do it favors, because, like, Dennis Haysbert just told him that, like, oh yeah, we after the battle and everything, Roland's like, oh, we failed, and then Steven's like, oh, well, we haven't failed, not as long as the tower still stands. Like, what are they fighting? Like, what are they fighting? What are they fighting for? It's not explained at all.
Nope.
Yeah. And then can we please talk about the about 12 minutes in, or 13 minutes in, the voiceover of the iconic fucking line.
Yes. I would have almost rather had them not put it in.
Oh, I definitely would have rather had that they didn't do it. Like,
because it's so pointless. It drives nothing. It's not, that doesn't serve any purpose in this film.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Like, the way that I heard it, or the way that I understood it from what I read and saw and everything, was that Stephen King, like, fought to have it in there because fans wanted it in there and everything. But no one, even in Stephen King, I don't think, understood the importance of putting it at the beginning of the movie. Like, that's what it should have opened with.
Right.
But, yeah.
There's literally no pursuit in this whole movie.
Right. Oh, yeah.
The Man in Black is not fleeing, and the gunslinger is not following him. It's not happening in this movie at all. Yeah.
And then this is where it kind of stretches a little bit of my suspension of disbelief here, is that, okay, he has a fight at school, and then they're sending him to this camp, like, less than 24 hours later. Like, they don't research it or anything, or
right?
They don't, like, they don't tour the campgrounds or anything. It's like it's a little shitty, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it services the plot as weak as it is.
I do kind of like the aesthetic they achieved, though, with the lowmen with the seam of their skin. I thought that's actually kind of cool. Yeah,
that's an interesting idea.
But that's about it. I mean, they don't really use it to any really good effect. It's just kind of there.
And see, and I'll get back to that in a second. Just look at this. Like, look at the stepdad. Like, they're having an argument, and and he, like, just yelled at him, and then the stepdad's just like, I'll drag you down the stairs myself. Like, emote. Have some kind of reaction.
Yeah, I mean, Jake should have been like, what? I couldn't hear you, what?
Yeah, exactly. And, like,
pretty bad.
Tom Taylor does a pretty good job with what he's given. I still think he's one of the standouts. But
I agree. He needed a lot more to work with.
He really did.
Yeah.
And then, the seams of the low men and the people, that's fine. Yeah, I liked that just fine. But
just from an aesthetic standpoint,
yeah,
I thought it looked kind of cool. But that's it. I mean,
right.
Yeah, not much else to say about it, really.
Yeah. There was a video of, I think it was CinemaSins, like everything that's wrong with the Dark Tower. And when it got to this scene, it's, I think it was this, or it might have been Honest Trailers. I don't think they've done an Honest trailer for it. I don't know. But anyway, somewhere on the internet, there's a video that shows a clip of Jake escaping out of the bathroom window and saying that, oh, suddenly it's turned into Jason Bourne. Because it's just all like parkour and like, yeah. And I mean, I didn't mind this little chase scene, but it just seems like like Catherine Winnick and the stepdad's expression just then of just like complete bewilderment is like the audience. They're the audience surrogate in that one shot.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on in this movie?
Exactly.
But I mean, I guess the momentum is okay. Also, yeah, like they just both just jumped over it without looking at where they were going to land, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
But like you do have to keep the momentum, and that's fine. That's, this is okay. As a chase scene, but it's crazy to me that this is the gunslinger. This is the Dark Tower with Roland Deschain, the gunslinger, and here we are 17 minutes into it, and not a shot has been fired. Well, one shot has been fired.
Yeah. To no end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So much New York.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like, I get it. Like, they do need to kind of introduce the other worlds aspect of it, but it just doesn't work for me, like, at all. And it's just such a disservice, because this could have been a good, like, adaptation of the Gunslinger, like,
right,
and incorporate some of the stuff, like keep Dutch Hill the fuck out of it,
yes,
because that belongs later in the series. But I mean, they could have had like a story that's Roland and Jake bonding, and then stuff happens.
Could have built a foundation.
Yeah.
I mean, introduce everything, introduce the universe and the world, and
yeah,
that's not what they don't do that very well in this movie. They kind of thrust you into it, and so many things that are great about the books are either glossed over or just skipped entirely.
Yeah, because
they rushed so much of the story. They crammed so much of the story of the book series into this first movie, and that's just really a mistake. Which it's so dense. It's such a dense universe. You have to ease your audience into it, and this is not that at all. Yeah, absolutely. I kind of like the set design of the Dutch Hill mansion. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Yeah, it looks fine, but just not enough. There's just no substance. And just, this is so aggravating to me that they use the doorway demon. Like, yeah. I mean, sort of props to them for actually using something from the books, but it's just so nondescript. It just doesn't work, and so brief. Yeah. And then, of course, I'm just going to type in 1919, and that doesn't show like any ingenuity for Jake. That doesn't show like any type of like, it's not any character growth for Jake. It's just him typing in something randomly. Like, I don't even remember him noticing 19, except for, in his dreams and everything. Right. But it's not like a growth of his character to show that he's clever or anything. Yeah. It's just like, it could have just been like hey, let me look into all this weird shit that's going on in my life, and I can piece it together, and that'll show that I'm, not just a bland child
character in a young adult thing.
And I think when I talked about we talked about this movie on Obsessive Viewer and reviewed and everything, I was like, I didn't mind the portals too bad. I was like, I can understand that, but it's another example of taking the lazy way out. Because this isn't a spoiler. In the books, the going from world to world through portal kind of things, you can do that. You can go from Midworld to New York. They do that in the books, but the lengths they have to go to do that they fill an entire book with trying to get the means of transporting themselves between worlds. It's a really hard thing to do and a really big deal in the books. And in this movie, he punches a number into a portal, and it just takes away so much of that journey. Yeah, it's part of the journey. It's part of the story. It builds the character and the world. Everything. It's a really great thing. It's a journey. It's a battle. But in this movie, he punches in some numbers and travels to Midworld. It's just nothing. Yeah,
and not only that, but the way that the doors between worlds are introduced in the books is that, like, it's mysterious when it starts. Like, the very first time we see something like that, it's a complete mystery even to Roland.
Right,
like, it's something that in all of his years of traveling and everything, he's never seen. And then we slowly get more information about it. Here we just have, hey, just type it in. Also, another thing that CinemaSins did was that when he throws a shoe over, it's like, okay, he's in this creepy house far away from home. This mysterious portal has just opened up, so he's going to throw a shoe? Like, he's going to throw his actual shoe. It's like, it's not like he needs it or anything.
Yeah, exactly. A house that's full of all kinds of debris and stuff.
Right.
Plus, you're having visions that you're destined to go do this thing, and you go somewhere and you're getting ready to do that thing, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I should go through that portal or not.
Right.
Like, really? It's like, that was just kind of silly.
Yeah. So what do you think of these shots of the Mohaine Desert in Midworld?
It's a good-looking desert.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking desert, but a lot of the Midworld set pieces and settings in the movie look relatively plain to me. I think this looks pretty good. This is a pretty good vision of the desert, but some of the other stuff just really misses the mark, I think.
Yeah, but this right here, this machinery, broken down machinery, that feels true to the books. That's like, that's I would have loved more of that in this movie.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. And here's one thing that I don't know. The kind of monitoring children with the shine just seems kind of, again, lazy. Like, it just seems like a super lazy conceit for the villain people to have. And I mean, Matthew McConaughey's such a talented actor, but he's just got nothing to work with here.
No. He slides into some of his old knack for overacting.
Yeah.
I used to refer to Matthew McConaughey as Matthew McOveract because he used to do it a lot. But he toned down a lot over the past handful of years, and he's delivered some terrific performances.
Oh yeah.
But this one felt like, not that he was awful,
right?
But it just felt like a bit of maybe a half step backwards for him.
Yeah.
As far as his evolution as an actor.
It's just, I don't know. And it's so unnecessarily, I don't know if I'd say complicated, but like, okay, there's a portal on Keystone Earth that has been used, so they have to go back to New York to go to the, like, the Man in Black has to go back to, like, to track him that way. Like, can they not see where it landed in Midworld? like, why is that not explained? Like, it just seems, again, like just serving the plot. And so we have the Horn of Eld there, which we're not going to spoil anything, but that's like the one piece of fan service that people got so excited about, and I was excited about it, but it's just, like, even that, like, there was such a big deal over it. On social media, they showed, like, oh, hey, he has the Horn of Eld, so that has some significance to book readers. but it's so not an element of the entire movie at all. It's just a prop.
Right. It's just kind of there.
Used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but I don't know. So anyway, we get our introduction of Roland to Jake. What do you think? How do you feel about the guns? The way the guns look in the movie.
I think the look, the aesthetic again of to use that word again of Roland they hit the nail on the head. I think.
Yeah.
I think he looks awesome. I think the guns look great. They're huge, but not. They're referred to as big guns, like they're hand cannons, but they're not ostentatious. They're realistically menacing. I think they hit the nail on the head as far as the look of Roland. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And
real quick, the Horn of Eld is like one of the only true Easter eggs, really. In the movie
for the book series, yeah,
because they didn't harp on it or make it ridiculous. It's an actual Easter egg.
That's true. That, and then also we missed it, but when he's walking, that shot looks really cool. Like him holding him over the cliff, which I don't know, that's cool. I like this right here. I like Roland being nervous or cautious of Jake. Like just then when he says that his that he's one of that Jake must be one of the Man in Black's tricks and everything. That feels so authentic to the Gunslinger.
Yeah.
Notably the Gunslinger, the novel, because like that's throughout most of the first book. He is so certain that everyone he comes across is an agent of Walter and is some kind of sorcery. Mm-hmm. But yeah. But yeah, when Jake is walking after he's escaped, there is a shot of a marquee for a movie that says Spaghetti Week at the Majestic, and that's actually a direct reference to the Wastelands, because there is he like the same thing like he walks past a theater that says that.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, some of these shots like look really cool because they filmed it in South Africa, and it's like there's a ton of very cool views and vistas and everything that's covered or that's shown, but they just waste it.
They do. There's not enough of it either.
No, not at all.
It's mostly just prevalent in this first act here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And then like
Matthew McConaughey looks way too cool.
He does.
He's like slick. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He looks like a used car salesman.
Yeah, which I mean that's somewhat true to the Man in Black's character a little bit.
He looks like a guy who's going out to get laid.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
which is just not. That doesn't seem right. He shouldn't be. Part of it is that Matthew McConaughey is a really good-looking guy, and I would not have. I never envisioned him being such an attractive guy.
Me neither.
So that's a bit of an issue. Not sort of. I mean, I don't think it's a fault, but I think that kind of works against his appearance, and he's a little too charming and slick.
Yeah, I can see that. But that scene,
I'm not using the right words.
You're fine. But that scene where he's walking past the girl and says hate, like, why does he need to say hate?
Right.
Like, it could have been a lot more interesting if he just waved his hand and suddenly she turned just terrible.
Yeah. I know. It's just cheesy.
Yeah.
It's very cheesy to have him say hate or stop breathing.
Right. Ugh.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. And so we get Richard P. Sayre and the Dixie Pig. How did you feel about the Dixie Pig in general in this movie?
It's different from what I envisioned in the books, but it has this. I feel like the Dixie Pig was more of like a much smaller in the book and just kind of this place, but here it's like in the movie it's like a compound where they have all these people. I don't know. I had a different vision of it, I guess. I think, honestly, what's in the movie is a little bit better than what I was envisioning. I think this is
interesting. It's
kind of, I guess I never had a very good picture in my mind of what the Dixie Pig looked like. But I don't know. I kind of like what they did with it, to be honest.
Sure. I can understand that. And I kind of like how it has this like kind of grungy like 80s post-apocalyptic kind of feel to it.
Right.
Like that kind of aesthetic. And the ideas of like masks and everything is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And again, with the fog and the mist.
Yeah.
It's
lazy.
It's so lazy. So incredibly lazy. And of course we get our big Pennywise Easter egg that's right in our face.
Yeah. I wonder where all the budget went for this movie.
I really do too. I mean, I'm sure that there's some visual effects that kind of ate up a lot of the money, but yeah, I don't know. And I like the idea of like ruins and everything. Okay, in here, okay. Nondescript, see, they look like zombies and everything. And then we get a throwaway line from Roland saying they're Tahine.
Yeah.
That's it. They belong to Walter, they're Tahine. That's all you get.
Yeah.
It's like, God, like this movie, and like even earlier when he is talking about the Manny village, he just says there's a tribe over there. Like,
yeah.
Like, why is this movie so terrified of the mythology?
Yeah.
Ugh.
I agree.
Yeah.
Embrace it, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard, but you have to be creative and think of a way to weave that into your movie. I mean, they don't do that. It's also ham-fisted. It's not, there's no nuance to anything in this movie, hardly.
Yeah. And I do like that line, you have theme parks here? Those are relics from when the world moved on. Mm-hmm. They're theme parks. Like, I like that. That's funny.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of like fish out of water stuff.
Yeah.
Regarding Roland that's actually, I think, decently well done. Right.
And so when he's talking about, and I hate that they changed the mythology. Like, that was, like Roland says, that was our last stand. I lost my father that day. Okay. We saw a total of 3 gunslingers. One that's already dead, essentially. And like, okay, that should have been more pumped into that. But also, it's just against the mythology of the books. Like, it makes so much more sense and is more compelling in the books. Like, their last stand is Jericho Hill, and that's a very interesting part of the mythology. Like, why retcon that to where you can, if your intention is to make a franchise that explores so much of the backstory and everything over different mediums and everything, why ruin the backstory out of the gate?
Yeah.
And
here's the little reference to him.
Oh, the Crimson King?
The Crimson King.
Yeah.
Which, almost like a Easter egg.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way, you could say, I guess.
Right. Yeah, it's just, like, I kind of like that. Okay, this explanation is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Just because I like the inclusion of the spider.
Yeah. And it's funny in the books how much of the palavers there are and how much discussion takes place beside a campfire.
Yeah.
And that's a very prominent mental picture you have throughout the books. And so I was expecting a lot of campfire chat, you know, fireside chats, not like FDR, you know what I'm saying, in the movie. And this is kind of the only one. Not that it should be riddled with it, or I think too much of scenes like this would bog the movie down. But there's a lot of talking in the first book.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to see a little bit more of stuff like this.
Yeah, me too. Or at least enough information to make it feel like there was a lot of backstory.
Yeah, mythology and stuff.
Yeah. It's just such a shame. And like, I don't mind the kind of weird way that they explain the tower, like the tower just holding everything, like all of existence in a bubble to keep Toadash space out. That's interesting. That's slightly different from what's in the books, but
Right.
I enjoyed that. Like, I like that. It just, I don't know. And what do you think of the whole idea of Roland being off his quest and not interested in the tower, or forsaken the gunslinger code, essentially?
It's another example of, I don't have a problem with that creative choice, but you could have executed it better.
Yeah.
It's another example of that. I think the execution is what was off on that, not the fact that they did it. I would have been fine with it, as a way to introduce you to the character. I think that would have been fine if they had focused much more on character development and building in this first movie, and then, kind of dive into the story more in a second movie or a sequel or something like that. I think that could have made sense, but in this movie, it didn't work as well.
Yeah, and I kind of like that scene that we just saw, where Roland is watching him sleep. And you can kind of see, like, there's a little bit of a nuance to him. Like, yeah, he's kind of finding his way back, and he likes having a companion. I kind of like that. It's not that interesting here.
Yeah.
And just haphazardly throwing the word beamquake out there, I'll never not be bothered by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, at this point, like, again, why bother going to the village? Like, you see where it came from. It's,
yeah.
I mean, just go in that direction, for the love of God. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this is one of the first big action scenes, really.
Right.
With Roland specifically. And, I mean, it's a fine line. Like, you can, like, we're here complaining about, okay, there's not enough backstory, there's not enough mythology in this movie. And yeah, I that's how I feel. But on the other hand, if they had thrown in a lot of exposition and a lot of backstory and a lot of mythology, would casual audiences have, been turned away by that?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can't. Yeah, I can't answer that one. I don't know.
Yeah. Because the kind of comparison to be made is the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, the Fellowship of the Ring starts with an exposition dump that's handled very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's more of a prologue,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and it works great.
Totally.
And like, I don't, like, there's no like emotion like this. Jake's mom has a type.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. Like, there's no emotion. It's not like we're supposed to be like, we're supposed to feel for Jake, but it's just nothing. And then we get this stupid calling back of darkness and fire that just seems so out of place and awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, yeah.
Yeah.
And it just looks like a screen. Like, and I kind of like that the color of it. It's like, it reminds you of like a rose, but
Yeah.
it's just, I don't know. We get the first fast reload. I'm a sucker for all the gunplay in this movie. I know a lot of people said that it was kind of bland, and I don't know. I kind of like it.
It's a little too sparse.
Yeah, that's true.
Not a lot of it.
Yeah. And like, I recently saw Kingsman: The Golden Circle, and like, there's a scene where Pedro Pascal goes to town on a bunch of bad guys with 2 revolvers.
Yeah.
And it's very stylized and very cool. And like, it made me wish that we had a little bit more of that in this, or a little bit more of that. Like, I mean, that would be a little too Hollywood for Roland, but there are ways that you can make it look cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did a fine job here, but it just, man, if we had more.
Right.
Yeah, and that was a small tear. Okay, that was a small tear in the fabric of reality. Okay, why not just call it like a thinny or something? Yeah.
And I kind of think the thinny that's described in the book is a little more menacing than
absolutely
than the movie. You know,
yeah.
It's kind of described as emptiness, almost like a purgatory type thing in the books, and that's, to me, I think that's just a lot scarier than these vague monsters.
Yeah, vague monsters and
dimly lit monsters.
Seriously. And like there's a huge thing in the books about how the thinny is, like, there's sound associated with it.
Right.
Like, they have to, as they're wandering, they have to put bullets in their ears to drown the sound out.
Yeah.
Like, that's such a cool thing to do, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. And yeah, just the quick shots of this monster, just, like, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Like, and it wasn't that problematic to me in the theater, but this just seems a little... Yeah, seeing it now, it's like, I get that. I totally get it.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is it that it takes Roland that long to pull his knife out and cut himself free?
And that's such a problem to me. He's the gunslinger. He's supposed to be, you know...
He's Roland.
Yeah.
He's Roland Shane.
He's dispatched so easily in this moment.
Yeah.
It's such a problem. And it still bothers me, like, that was very brave of what you did. Like, reaching for the gun and then going to play on the circus thing? Like, all right. Cool. Ugh. Yeah. And just like, okay. I was brave going for the gun. He didn't, whatever. But like, like, it's not necessarily a problem with it being a night shoot. Like they could have lit it so much better, but it's just so dark and way too dark.
Yeah.
Now this scene's fun. It's I like this Man in Black.
He is kind of a, he's kind of a trickster.
Yeah.
In the books, and so you're right. This is kind of a nice homage to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it leads to one of my favorite moments, which I'll talk about here in a moment. Also, one of my other favorite moments when Lonnie gets killed, and which is so satisfying.
Did us all a favor.
Yeah, but again, stop breathing. It's nothing. Like that's. It's just, it's so cheap.
Yeah. It's not creative at all.
No. But I love McConaughey's performance in this scene, though, because he's so creepy and you, like the way that he has his hands on her arms like that, that's just so unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, he's just all up in her public or private space.
Yeah.
That I really like.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Or give them that.
Yeah. And this was cool, kind of seeing the ghosts of the past as kind of going through the room.
Mm-hmm.
I like that line. I've got myself a stalker. That's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of Matthew McConaughey kind of hamming it up a little bit, but it works. But one of my favorite things is how he explains, or how he's got the information he needs now. He has, like, this is what he needs, but he still goes the extra mile to, like, explain to her that her son was right and she needs to feel just absolutely horrible for not believing him. Like, I love that. And when I first saw it, I kind of thought, like, he's going to, like, force her to kill herself. And that's going to be really interesting. But they didn't. She's a pile of ash because Catherine Winnick filmed all the days she was assigned, I guess.
They couldn't afford to pay her for another day. Yeah. Spent all their money on fog.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and you send your son off to the asylum. That's so brutal.
That is pretty harsh.
Yeah, like I really like that. That's probably my favorite part of the movie.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up on it as much when I saw it in the theater.
Yeah. And just simple scenes like this with Roland and Jake kind of taking a break from the travels. Like, I kind of like that. It feels kind of sincere. And I kind of appreciate the movie for that, but it just doesn't, like, even then, like, shots like this and the scene just now where he's taking a sip of water, like, it doesn't convey the distance and the how much travel there is. Like,
the scale.
Lord of the Rings, most of those movies are about walking, and it's like you feel that distance.
Right.
But here it's just like, okay, well, now they're by a stream.
Yeah.
And they never say, but they never call it a Manny village, but that's what it is, and they don't bother to talk about the Manny folk.
Yeah.
Which just, yeah. Yeah, and then our one reference to Ka is pinned on the guy's shirt.
Right.
Which, all right.
And here's the pandering to the Asian market.
See, I kind of wonder if that's what it was.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't do the movie any favors.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And again, like, they saw where the fucking beam was coming from.
Yeah.
Like, why do you need... Yeah. And, I mean, okay, a lot of people had, maybe not issues, but kind of had problems about the, him keeping the bullet and everything, and I thought, okay, that's fine.
Right.
I think it's kind of, it fits his persona, because he's kind of weird and creepy, but there's not enough backstory to him, or there's not enough character development for him.
Yeah. And I kind of like the way they established that, you know, the Man in Black and Roland are kind of like obsessed with each other in a way.
Yeah.
And they are like the polar opposites in the universe. They did a decent job trying to build that dynamic. Mm-hmm. You know, it wasn't great. It definitely could be way better.
Right.
But I think they did a decent job of establishing that, I guess.
I agree. Kind of this, I mean, what sucks is that they establish it with this basic revenge story. Like the actual idea of Roland being the only person who isn't affected by the Man in Black's sorcery. Like, that alone is an interesting dynamic. Like, that scene where he's just looking, like, mulling over the bullet, it's like, it's interesting to think of him keeping that as a memento, because it's like he's the only, like, he's his opposite. He's kind of like the end of Unbreakable. Like, they have these, like you said, they're kind of polar opposites. But because the studio's too afraid, or because the writers aren't that talented, they just have to have him like, oh, he's gonna kill his dad, and then we'll be on a revenge kick. And it's not anything interesting about the actual characters in their world.
And it's an oversimplification.
Absolutely.
Of the conflicts, the major conflicts of the books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what is the deal with Jake making googly eyes at the girl in the village?
Yeah, what was the point of that?
None point.
I don't get it.
None point, Tiny.
Yeah.
There was like no point to it. It was just very, like, there was no payoff to it. Like, you would think like, oh, it's going to be there's going to be something to pay off of it, but nothing.
I think it was like that scene paired with a handful of other ones just barely pushed him over the 90-minute mark. That may have been why I made it into the movie.
That's so depressing, but so true.
Cheaper than world building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, and we get a quick reference to Thanky Sai, which is nice. But, yeah. So, and yeah, again, it gets too convoluted. Like, they have to go back to Keystone Earth so that they can get to a portal to get to the Devar toy.
Yeah.
So that they can stop the Man in Black or whatever. But it's just like, it's way too convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
So this scene was pretty prominent in the first trailer that we got like 9 weeks before the movie came out.
Yeah.
But, and it's such a summer blockbuster line. Like, you're gonna like Earth a lot. Like, I kind of like that. Like, I still think it's fun. It's a fun line, but
a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah, but seeing it in this context, it's in the context of the movie as a whole. It's just ugh. And this is like one of the only times where we actually get backstory into Roland and the gunslingers and everything.
Right.
But it's not necessarily backstory. It's explaining the subtext of the movie.
Yeah, and she's like, he's Roland of Gilead, the last of the line of Eld. And then it immediately jumps to the revenge story. But the Man in Black has him in his pocket. It's like, oh, God, really?
Exactly.
Totally drops the ball. It's like, oh, we were heading towards something really good and really cool, and you just ruin it. Yeah,
absolutely. And, like, it's fine enough world building, but it's just hampered by this just really weak premise throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And it's one, like, I can kind of get behind Roland's kind of turning away from it, from his birthright or his duties as a gunslinger.
Yeah.
But again, it just feels like there's some exposition. This is more of an exposition dump, sort of, but it's an exposition dump with elements of like kind of narrative propulsion, like explaining to us the character motivations rather than saying, hey, this is like kind of just organically bringing it out essentially.
And there was just a line that came across the screen that Roland said, and before the tower falls, I will get my revenge.
Yeah.
Which is just 100% out of character.
Right.
For Roland. He's not a vengeful character really in the books, and it's that is not at all what drives him or the story in the books. And to see this story and him de-evolved to that level of simplicity is really heartbreaking as a fan of the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, remember this number. It's your way back. It's 1408. There's that's not part of the plan.
No.
But whatever. But yeah, it is kind of heartbreaking to see Roland in this way, and it's somewhat of a disservice to the character.
Yes.
But it could have worked if they handled it better.
Agreed.
And I guess was the reason to show Jake having kind of the hots for one of the villagers, like to give her some kind of, or to give him some kind of struggle or like some kind of stakes in the attack on the village. I'm not sure, but of course they conveniently lose power, so they can't see fucking anything. But
yeah.
And Merlin's rainbow.
Yeah.
Is that how you imagined the Merlin's rainbow, the grapefruit, Black 13, all that?
On screen for 2 seconds? Yeah, right. Totally.
Nice.
Showing up in the first movie? No.
Yeah.
Ugh. I didn't mind it, honestly. I think it was kind of cool to see him in there. Again, kind of a legitimate Easter egg.
Yeah.
In a way.
Mm-hmm. And just, like this, I like the excitement of this, like, of this fight scene or this action scene, because it's different. It's not like a gun battle.
Right.
Well, hell, we don't actually get a gun battle until the end of the movie, but compared to, like, the Thinny, like, it's just, Roland isn't just fighting off a creature. He's fighting off like these orc-like characters, which is also problematic because they're not interesting enough to where nothing about them stands out.
Yeah.
So it's just yeah, I don't know. I kind of like I like handicapped rolling and shooting.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish that in a perfect world they would have handled this a lot better and saved, like not shown. Like I get the idea of okay, we're going to have Roland injured, but still show how much of a badass he is with the gun. Like save that for the second movie.
Yes.
Hint, hint. Yeah. And then we get kind of this wrestling match kind of thing, which I kind of like. It's kind of a fun variety to it. Like,
yeah.
Say what you will about the movie, but Idris Elba was pretty solid as an action star.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, he was not even close to the problem with this movie.
No, not at all.
Yeah. I'm glad that this movie didn't taint my opinion of him at all.
Same here.
Like I'm still excited to see him in just about anything.
Me too. Like he's an incredible actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like at least there's some lighting in this scene. Like
yeah.
Compared to the forest scene with just Jake and Roland, it's like Jake got cock blocked. Anyway, it's just like it's a lot more vibrant because I like that the lighting effect is they have the fire and everything to kind of light the scene.
Right.
I kind of like that.
It is a bit of a formulaic scene in that it's like, well, we're at this minute mark in the movie. We need to have an action scene, so
True.
We'll just have these Taheen show up, and get into a gunfight or get into a fight.
Mm. Exactly.
Which you see it for what it is, but it's fine. It gives a chance for some exposition on what gunslingers are, and Roland gets to showcase his skills a little bit, like you were saying.
Yeah, which this scene right here is one of the coolest Roland scenes.
Absolutely.
I think, even though there's not like, I would say I've heard that people saying like, oh, he doesn't do this in the books, like he doesn't sit there and think about his shot and everything. But I feel like there might be one or two scenes where he does that in the books. But
yeah, maybe.
Either way, it conveys his skill in a very cool way for this particular medium, and I'm not bothered by that at all.
It's within the realm of a gunslinger skill, I think. I don't think it's not goofy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's
absolutely.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I just wish it wouldn't have been in the trailer.
Yeah, me too. Like this would have been such a cool scene to see for the first time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh. And another thing that kind of makes you think, like, just how fucking confused was everyone making this movie? Because in the trailer, there are a couple of scenes, like in the early trailer, that shows the guns glowing blue whenever he's about to fire them. Like,
yeah,
who was making that movie?
No kidding.
Like,
that's not. No, I'm glad that's not in the movie.
Too. Me too. What do you think about the kind of weird, random reference to the guns being made out of Excalibur?
I don't mind that at all, actually.
Really? I
think it's kind of that's not in the books.
No.
But I think it's kind of a cool. I think it's kind of a cool thing. I mean, it sort of grounds the backstory a little better, or makes it a little more accessible, I guess I would say. Mm-hmm. I don't think you need to do it, but I think it was kind of cool. It didn't bother me at all. Okay, yeah. I was indifferent to it, I guess. Yeah. This scene I really like. Yeah. Kind of first, like, Last Action Hero kind of scene. Yeah. Fish out of water stuff. Yeah, that was genuinely funny.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Oh, this is where it was Spaghetti Westerns or
Okay.
Spaghetti Week at the Majestic. It was this scene. It wasn't earlier.
Okay.
But yeah, and I like that because I mean, like you barely saw it. Like that's a great Easter egg.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just they spend so much time grounding the movie into our world and to get it accessible and everything. Like, well, you know, would it have been better if they would have waited until a second movie to really show Roland in our world?
I don't know. I think again, it's all about execution.
Yeah,
It's all about how well you pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't bad. They should have established Midworld before they established New York, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is the biggest pet peeve. I guess I could change my criticism to it's not that they spent so much time in New York; it's that they started in New York and stayed there for so long before we even got a taste of Midworld.
Right.
That
absolutely.
was well, I guess the opening we got a taste of Midworld, but it was a poor decision to open the movie that way. I think
I agree
with so much time in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like it would have been cool, like if they were going to change up the story. I love this.
Yeah.
If they were going to change up the story and everything, it would have been interesting if it's opened with Midworld and the kind of an exposition dump of Roland's backstory, chasing the Man in Black, and then have a portion of the movie be about his about the question of whether or not it's real. Like Jake kind of trying to struggle with like am I just messed up in the head or is this real? Like that would have been a much more compelling movie, but instead we got this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the TV commercial in the hospital room with the raccoons talking, I really liked that. It was good. I like that he has like, you know, radiation sickness and hepatitis and everything, and then later in the movie it's like, hey, you know, come hang out with me in Midworld. You have nothing to live for. Ugh. Jeez. But yeah, and that's great. Yeah. Like Idris Elba's really good at just doing this deadpan kind of thing. Like he owns what little role they give him
for your services. Bring my guns. Yeah, that like there's those are too few and far between.
Yeah, and like scenes like that makes me not regret buying it. Like on Blu-ray, like I'm okay to have this.
Yeah.
You've both forgotten the faces of your fathers. And see, and that's great. I like those comedic beats. I think that's well done.
Yes.
But I feel like maybe they would have been better if we had context for why he's saying that.
Absolutely. And those kinds of jokes would land so much better in a sequel with Eddie Dean.
Yes.
Stuff like that. Not that Jake can't be funny. I'm just saying that's, yeah. Damn it.
But like if we had like, okay, you both have forgotten the faces of your fathers. Like, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first time or only time that this is in the movie. It's like, okay, that's funny because he's saying a weird sentence to these women on the bus. But like, wouldn't it be a lot better if you knew that that's like a common expression in Midworld and that it's, you know, it has some importance to it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And for a movie that's based on a series of novels that begins with the Man in Black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed, the Man in Black is in pursuit of the gunslinger throughout this entire movie. Like that's
right.
That doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. And just bouncing back and forth like Midworld, Keystone Earth, Midworld, Keystone Earth. It's just like, why would they expect, like, this is a 93-minute movie, and I'm kind of tired of them going back and forth if I'm viewing it as someone who isn't familiar with the series.
Right.
Now, what do you think of this guy? He's kind of a remnant of one of the abducted kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's contrived itself.
Well, yeah, it's almost like a nod to the fifth book.
Yeah.
Which I won't spoil.
Right.
But yeah, it's, for those who've read the series, you know what I mean. It's almost like a reference to that, or like I don't know.
Yeah. You might say they ruined it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also just, it's funny that in the village, she's like, don't use the shine, they can track it. It's like, you had one job, Jake. Don't use the fucking shine.
No shit. I can't remember when we talked about this, when we reviewed it on Obsessive Viewer. Did you have trouble or an issue with them referring to it as shine instead of the touch? Or
I didn't have a problem with it.
Me either.
Yeah.
I know some people did.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's fine. I think again it grounds it in other more popular Stephen King works, and that's what it is. It's the shine. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just called something different by Roland. So yeah, I didn't have an issue with it at all.
Yeah, same here. Like, I kind of like the idea. Like, it could have been, I think I mentioned it in one of the 5 or 6 hours we've spent talking about the movie and on either podcast we have.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It just, I forgot my train of thought. Like, it would have been interesting if, like, on Keystone Earth, they say, oh, it's the shine, but in Midworld, they say, oh, it's the touch. Like, that would have been easy.
Yeah.
Or it would have been an interesting way to kind of do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we get it's not even a pile of ash, it's just burnt wood.
Yeah.
And that's just, like, I really remember seeing it in the theater and thinking, like, what is that supposed to be?
Yep.
And then just being really confused. Like, I don't see what the point is for it. And again, it's just kind of, it's just all serving the plot. All things serve the plot and not the characters.
Yep.
Like, what? I don't know. Like, if the plan was to lure Jake back or to have him use the shine so that they can track him, why not just stay at his house?
Right.
Like, stay at Jake's after he kills his mom and just wait for him to come back.
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah. I like the way that it's kind of taunting him.
Yeah.
With the hello there with the smiley face and Ash.
Right.
I kind of like that.
It's not bad.
Yeah. And then as much as like you said earlier, you were wanting more of just sitting there and talking, like by fireside and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There are quite a bit of scenes where they're just sitting there talking.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, like here, but the issue is that what they're saying is what's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will kill him for both of us. Like, okay, you're Roland Deschain. You're supposed to be, and I mean, granted, okay, yes, I am aware it is a film adaptation. It's not supposed to follow the books exactly, but there are certain things about the character that are so ingrained in that character that to not include them or to shy away from them would be not to honor the character. It would be like, okay, let's make a Batman movie where Bruce Wayne's parents don't get killed and he just decides to do the Batman thing for fun.
Yeah.
Or he's reluctantly brought in to be a vigilante. Like, that's the same thing. Like Roland's call to the tower, his obsession with reaching the tower is everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not in this movie. Like,
it's not at all.
Yeah, it just shows like that is a complete misread of the entire book series.
Mm-hmm. And his character.
Yeah, and his character, yeah.
Yeah.
And And as much as I like this scene of the training and or the Gunslinger Creed as they're firing at cans, there are so many problems with this. First of all, they're just in a random warehouse. Is it part of the apartment building?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, you're in the middle of New York City firing a weapon in a building. Like, I'm just thinking, like, okay, the bullets, if they miss the can or if the bullet goes through the wall, like, someone could get killed.
Right.
And then also, like, first of all, I love the Gunslinger's Creed. Talking to people who weren't familiar with the movies or with the books that saw the movie thought that the Gunslinger Creed was kind of hokey. At least Mike did.
Yeah.
But I love hearing it. I love hearing Idris Elba say it. And for the most part, I like this scene where he's, it's a bonding scene between him and Jake. But afterwards, it's like, oh, yeah, these guns are my weapon. You have the shine. It's like, why even do it? Like, why give him the gun to do that?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I always thought the Gunslinger's Creed was a little hokey, too.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Even in the books, I was like, it's a little simplistic.
Interesting. Yeah. I've always been a huge fan of it. Would you include it in a tattoo?
No.
Interesting.
It's like, he says, forgotten the face of his father like 5 times. It's just kind of, it's just not very creative, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Not in my book, anyways.
That's fair. Your weapon's the shine. The guns are mine. It's like, hey kid, here's a here's like an amazing toy. Here, have a jetpack. Oh no, wait, no, this is my toy. Here, play with this yo-yo. Yeah. In this scene could have been cool. Like, and I kind of enjoyed this scene.
Yeah.
If only because it wasn't in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So that at least had it going for it and everything. But there are a couple issues that I have with it. Most notably when Walter comes into play here and he does his magic thing to the guy behind the counter. Like right here in a second.
He kind of takes over his body or something like that?
Yeah, when he takes over the salesman's body, it's like, okay, first of all, how do you feel as someone who owns guns and is a gun aficionado? How do you feel about Roland shooting the gun to knock out the guy?
I don't remember that part.
Oh, it'll come up right here. Okay, first of all, this is my problem. He says, it's not me, I'm not doing it. Like, you don't need to say that. Like,
right.
You've already told us enough. Like, that's such a PG-13 thing.
Yeah.
To do. Like, okay. So, like, right there.
Oh.
He shoots the gun and hits the rifle and hits him in the head, or shotgun.
I don't have a problem with it because it's Roland and he's a gunslinger and he's special. Obviously, if it was just some dude, I'd be like, yeah, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But,
and just that last scene, or when he's walking and there's that wall, I think it was right there. There's a picture or a poster of Rita Hayworth.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice. I'm bothered by the fact that they walk into the gun store and they say, I need 45 caliber bullets because there's 2 kinds of 45 caliber bullets.
Oh.
There's ACP and there's Colt. And his revolvers would use 45 Colt, which is actually much more rare than 45 ACP.
Oh, okay.
So
that just ruined the whole movie.
It does, yeah. He asks them if they're rare when they're in Midworld. And it's like, they actually, a gun store in New York City probably might not have 45 Colt ammo in it.
Huh,
so,
interesting.
Just a little fun little gun fact for you.
Nice.
I'll shut up now.
And I did like the scene. I liked the idea of the Man in Black taunting Roland. I liked that. Like when he says, like, everyone who walks with you dies by my hand and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish that, and he says at one point, like, the old crew, I wish that there was more to that, like, more about, like, his old quartet. Mm-hmm. But, no, obviously nothing.
Yeah. And the whole death always wins. Like that's they beat the shit out of it with the promotion for this movie, and they wish they wouldn't have, because I think it is genuinely kind of a cool line and it could be effective, but ended up being just overused, and by the time you actually get to the movie, it's lost its luster.
Absolutely. I love this scene. Like showing the aftermath of Roland taking out all those guys. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And just like it kind of reminded me like the kind of stealth aspect of it kind of reminded me of like vintage like 24.
Yeah.
When Jack Sparrow would go do some shit.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean this gunfight at the Dixie Pig here in a moment, I dig it. It's the one like big action scene in it.
I thought it was pretty solid too.
Yeah. I just wish that there was more backstory and information and like less coddling. I wouldn't even say coddling, just less reticence to put in Easter eggs and everything. It's just like, okay, I'm a fan of gunplay in movies and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of Idris Elba, and just seeing him do that as Roland is just, it's honestly, it's worth owning it's worth the price of admission for me. Everything else about this movie is ridiculous, terrible for the most part, but this is pretty fun.
Yeah. And remember to have a great apocalypse.
Yeah.
Such a shitty line.
Yep. Poor Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And just like, there's so much more that could be done with this story, obviously, and like the bond between Roland and Jake. Like, man, it's not even like, I don't understand how this happened. Like, they originally said, like, okay, we're going to go for a February 2017 release date. Okay. And then we're going to move that to August for visual effects or whatever it was. Like that. See, this was cool. This is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Like crossing over somewhere in this, there is a reference to the Lobstrosities. It's like a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's like in the background. I'm kind of looking for it now, but yeah, it's like, what was the rush to get this movie out? Like,
yeah, you
could have this. And what did you think of that? Where he's flying through the air?
I'm fine with it. Okay. I mean, you've got to. It's an action movie. You got to have some action, and I didn't.
A monstrosity.
Oh, I missed
right
it.
There. Yeah.
Okay.
That was a cool shot where he shot the guy through the lens of the sniper rifle.
Right.
But yeah, I like the way that he twirls the gun before he shoots the gas can. That's cool. But
totally.
But yeah, like, okay. You can have a small budget for a movie. You can do that. Like, what is the rush in getting it out though? Like, take your time, pick a director that is passionate about it in a way that will breed his creativity or will appreciate his creativity. And let it be made in its own time. Like, and I hate that line. You killed my mom. Like, that's, not to spoil the gunslinger, but there are much more iconic lines that Jake could say.
Right.
As a pivotal moment in the movie.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah. And Jackie Earle Haley was completely wasted in this movie.
He really was.
Like, he's a damn good actor.
Yeah.
Especially as a villain.
Absolutely.
And he's barely in the damn movie.
Yep. Also, I love that the bus driver just keeps driving. Dude's just crashing through my windshield, but all right.
Gotta keep schedule, man.
Yep. And Jackie Earle Haley is dispatched of so easily.
Yeah.
It's basically
just another guy.
Yeah, a straightforward henchman fight.
Yeah, another henchman.
Yeah. It's like the Man in Black is the Bond villain and Richard P. Sayer is like the number one henchman guy.
Right.
I'm trying to remember some of them from the movies, from the Bond movies.
Like
but I can't
Odd Job?
remember. Yeah, like Odd Job.
Yeah.
But even with the lair and everything. And like a lot of people had problems with like, oh, why does he want to take down the tower? It's like, I kind of get it, judging from the context of the movie and how it's explained, but it's just, it's so bland and just not, lame. And then why, this fight is such a problem for me.
It's so dumb.
It is so dumb.
And the Man in Black in the books is, the way I would describe it, he's not a man of action. He's the kind of guy who gets others to do his bidding.
Absolutely.
He's a manipulator. He's a sorcerer. He's not a guy who's going to throw punches. He's not a boss fight at the end of a movie. That's just not the kind of character he is. And so this is just so out of left field. I mean, I understand you have to have a climax, but and that's also sort of the problem with making this an action movie, because the Gunslinger, the book, isn't really much of an action movie or an action story.
Right.
There's action in it, but it's just so much more than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Like, I would have been forgiving. Oh, God damn it.
He's throwing bullets.
He's throwing bullets, and Roland is blocking them with the guns. Like,
yeah, pretty bad.
Yep. But, like, I would be forgiving of this. Like, of this cheesy, stupid boss battle fight. If they had, like, if it paid off, like, he didn't need to kill the Man in Black. Like, the movie should have ended with Roland and the Man in Black having their palaver.
Yes.
Like, I would have been fine with them doing this whole boss battle thing if it ended with this whole conversation between Roland and the Man in Black, where the Man in Black just opens his eyes to the world as a whole and the universe and his piece, like his part in his role in the story to come. Because it would be compelling. That would be a good way to open it up. Like, oh my God, there's so much more that we haven't seen. Make me a franchise.
Yeah.
But no, we get the third instance of the Gunslinger's Creed, which even as a fan of it, I'm getting tired of seeing in this fucking movie already.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And then this is entertaining because it completely defies physics.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like, how did...
If he had just fired the angled bullet first, no problem.
Yeah.
To deflect the bullet off the I-beam and then shoot the straight bullet after that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
That would have made physical sense.
Yeah. Or if he fired one gun from each hand.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And this, doesn't he...
Yep,
he
does.
shoots into there like twice and it blows up the whole freaking thing.
Yeah. Which, hey, I mean, Death Star... He Death Stars it.
Yeah.
But even in Star Wars, you get that explanation, like, oh, yeah, you just... Like, it's seeded that, like, yeah, you can destroy it by then.
Right.
And my biggest issue, one of the biggest issues is how many of those children were just murdered just then by Roland Deschain.
Absolutely.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That shot is beautiful.
Such a great establishing shot.
It is.
Gorgeous.
Like, absolute. Like, that's a scene that I... Like, that's a shot that I would frame and hang up on the wall.
Absolutely.
If it wasn't tied to such a shitty movie. But, yeah. Ugh. And also the Barlow and Stakers.
Oh, nice.
On the left-hand side there, it's a reference to, oh my god, hang on, Salem's Lot. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that in the theater.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I noticed it is because it was all over the internet.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the first, like, production photos that were released.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get this hot dog scene. Which, yeah, I like the idea of it. The delivery's a little off.
Yeah,
but I love, like, whoever wrote this line is pretty okay.
Yeah,
yeah. But this, okay, I have to leave here, Jake. Like, why? Like, he doesn't say, like, all he has to say is, I find purpose. I really do need to protect the tower, even though I've killed the man in black, he's never really dead. He's been blah, 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 blah. Like, he's found purpose. Like, he should say that. Like, in a movie that explains so much about the motivations of the characters point blank to our face, we have that. Like, we have nothing here.
Yeah, and instead of saying, besides, I could use your help, say, no, Jake, you're a gunslinger.
Right.
Like, he calls him gunslinger, but it's like, it's just kind of...
Yeah.
haphazard.
And even technically, he should say he's a shine slinger, I guess, since that's his weapon.
I guess.
But also, just look how much taller Tom Taylor looks.
Yeah.
The reshoots.
Yep.
Yeah. And the two roses, that's cute and everything, but just doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, not so much.
Nope. And that is the end of the Dark Tower.
Thank God it's over.
Movie. That's the end of the Dark Tower film franchise. Probably.
For the foreseeable future.
Yeah. And what kills me is that Anders Thomas, whatever his name is, the co-writer, on the special features, he actually says something to the effect of, like, this is such an impossible story to adapt. And I'm like, then don't accept the job then.
Yeah, no shit.
Like, I mean,
you shouldn't have that attitude.
Yeah,
going in.
It's like, I get it. It is a very difficult thing to adapt. It is a very difficult road to get in, and like a very difficult thing. But like,
so was Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and they did it.
If you have someone who's passionate about it, who you're not going to chain too heavily, and you have faith in that person, it could be a pretty, it could be spectacular.
Yeah.
But this is just way too much interference, and way too much pandering to the common audience that, out of fear that they won't understand anything.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just such a shame.
It really is.
Yep. But yeah. And then we had stayed through the credits in the theater, and the only thing we get is a whistling from the Man in Black.
Right.
Which, I mean, if this movie is designed to create a franchise, like, leave us something to create a franchise, not just them randomly going into a portal. Like, leave something for us. Give us something interesting.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah.
Not good.
Yep. So this was your second time seeing it since the theater.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
Maybe a smidge better, but not really. I can't defend it. And the thing is, I would say probably 90% of the people who saw this movie are never going to watch it again.
Oh, absolutely.
So I can't even hang my hat on the idea that it's a little tiny bit better on the second viewing.
Right.
I can't. Maybe it is, but that doesn't matter because it's so shitty initially that people are not going to have any desire to see it again.
Yeah.
And it's not good. It's not so much better that it's going to redeem the franchise or redeem the film and give it a cult following. That's not going to happen.
Right. And at this point, I don't want it to have a cult following.
Yeah, me either.
Like, this was such a misstep in terms of adapting this property that I would want someone, like, ideally, you can't, the worst thing that could happen going forward is for someone at Sony to be like, oh, hey, the Dark Tower broke even just about when you factor in like the international box office and everything. Let's throw a sequel out there and see if
right,
it sticks, or if we get that, and throw another 30-40 million to create a movie, to create a sequel, and kind of go from there. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
What needs to happen is we need to bury this movie, and someone who is actually passionate about the franchise
right
needs to resurrect it and create something good.
That was going to be my question. I was going to say, would you prefer that, they squeak out a sequel with this and we get another one in 2 or 3 years, or would you rather 10 years down the road someone tries to resurrect it and make another opening film to a franchise again?
And that is tough too, because there's good and bad to both.
Yeah.
Well, there's
pros and cons to each.
Because, okay, yes, obviously I did just say that, yes, it would be perfectly fine if someone passionate came and made it again in 10 years or so, completely disregarding this.
Right.
The downside of that is we lose Idris Elba.
Yes.
Like, I think he could be a phenomenal Roland. This could be his role.
Yeah, career-defining role.
Yeah, but yeah, we don't get that.
Yeah, to me, I'd rather see it. To me, the best thing that could happen would be HBO picks it up as a show in 8 or 10 years. And honestly, I loved Idris Elba too. Aesthetically, he was perfect and all that, and he was great. And I love Idris Elba, but I'd be totally fine sacrificing Idris Elba for another actor playing him in 10 years.
Yeah, same here.
That's what I would prefer.
Yeah,
because they didn't build enough momentum with this movie to ride into a sequel at all.
They really didn't.
You'd be better off starting over, but you can't do that in 2 years.
Yeah.
It didn't really work for Spider-Man.
No.
Not all that well anyways. Homecoming, it kind of bounced it back, but still there aren't a lot of good examples of that happening.
Right. Yeah, the best thing I can think of, or the best equivalent that I can think of, is, and I'm not even 100% sure if this is how it went, but this is my perspective of it. Like, what is that movie? Or Stargate. We had Roland Emmerich made the movie Stargate, and then I feel like it was rebooted as the TV show.
Yes.
That's my interpretation of it. Do that with this.
Yeah. And the TV show was moderately successful because it had a lot of seasons, I think.
Yeah, a lot of seasons, a lot of different spinoffs. I mean,
I don't know if it's good.
I honestly don't know if it's good either.
I've never watched it.
But I know that it has a very rabid fan base.
Right.
Yeah.
Which could be us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, can you imagine if we just got a franchise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If only. Yep.
It's over.
Yep. So are our dreams.
Yes.
So that is our commentary track for The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Hope we didn't shit on it too much if you were a fan of it. I definitely I don't grudge anyone their fandom.
Right. If you enjoy it, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't satisfactory to me.
Yeah.
Or to Tiny.
Right.
So, yep. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. If you enjoyed our commentary on this, check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And, what are we doing next time? Oh, it goes right into the deleted scenes.
Oh, wow.
That's right. Yeah. Do you want to watch them? I don't.
You don't?
Really know.
No, that's all right.
Yeah. Plus, I kind of got to pee.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Okay. You can go ahead. Yeah, it's 26
Jeez, 26 minutes? Good Lord, yeah.
That would have almost made a complete movie. Yeah. Anyway, what are we doing next week on the podcast?
Are we doing Sleeping Beauties?
We are, yes.
Nice.
We're going to be reviewing Sleeping Beauties by Stephen and Owen King. And, I guess that'll do it. So, yeah, thank you guys for listening, and long days and pleasant nights.
And may you have twice the number.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Tower Junkies, a Dark Tower podcast presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find more of our episodes at TowerJunkiesPod.com, and you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts are found. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can find ways to do that at TowerJunkiesPod.com/donate, or become a patron for Obsessive Viewer at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer for recurring donations with different reward tiers. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. Any and all feedback on the podcast is encouraged. You can contact us by emailing us at matt@obsessiveviewer.com, or by tweeting us at TowerJunkiesPod, or at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. You can also like us on Facebook at facebook.com/TowerJunkiesPod. For more podcast content from ObsessiveViewer.com, check out Anthology, my solo side project podcast where I'm reviewing The Twilight Zone as a first-time viewer and exploring other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology television shows. You can find Anthology at anthologypod.com and anywhere podcasts are found. Finally, if you're philosophically curious, check out Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, which explores the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda. You can find that at thesecularperspective.com and subscribe to the podcast on the app of your choice. Once again, thank you for listening to Tower Junkies, and we'll see you next time.